So we're going to need a measuring device to measure out water. I've just kind of filled up something with water onto the side here that I'll pour into the glass that I'll be able to measure with. You'll need some bowls that you're going to use for shaping the concrete. So we're going to pour into some different things, and you'll want to use your bowls to kind of help with that. Grab some extra plastic bags that you can use to wrap your bowls in, so that way you don't have the concrete getting on them, right? So kind of like that. You're going to use it as a way of like forming some things, but you don't want to like permanently get concrete on something. So have a few different sizes of bowls. Then from your materials bag, you've got some gloves. All right, so we're going to have 4 gloves. 2 of them are going to be worn by you to prevent your hands from getting irritated by the concrete. And then 2 of them we're going to be using to fill with concrete. We've got some cups. All right, I've got all of these just right in your materials bag. Some little Dixie cups. 2 bags of concrete, 1 big, 1 small. Right, so it's like 4 cups worth of concrete and 2 cups worth of concrete that I've got in there for you. You should all have a spoon. Right? We can use that for mixing the concrete a little bit. And then I'm just going to attempt this. I've never tried it before, but I'm going to try dyeing the water that I mix into the concrete to make a colorful concrete. So I don't know if it's going to work or not, but if you want to try that out with me, you're welcome to as well. So everybody, if you're curious about what kinds of things we're going to make, here is some ideas. And I think that I've got some other pictures somewhere too, but with the hands, we're going to be filling concrete into these gloves, and we're going to be able to form those hands into a shape. Now, they're going to be 2 separate hands that we then glue together later with our Gorilla Glue. Okay? We're also going to use some of that concrete to make a concrete pillow that could be something that you'd like store keys in or change. Right? So it's going to have a little divot in it. So we'll like be pressing in with a bowl and kind of using that to kind of form the concrete inside of a plastic bag. And then we'll also have opportunities if you wanted to do something different with the hands like this. Somebody had put the hands kind of like this rather than putting them into a bowl. And then one of the last things we're going to do is a little planter. So you'll have a chance to like actually use it with some dirt and seeds if you wanted to make a little plant grow out of it. So that's going to be where we're headed with the concrete stuff today. So you'll also find like a plastic bag with some rubber bands. We're going to use this like on the gloves to close up those gloves and keep them from opening up. Okay. But yeah, as we're kind of going through this experience here, if you're like, oh, I need to go grab something else, just feel free to go grab it. Okay. All right. So let's get started. Let's get started with this. So to begin with, we are going to be making our planter cup. So we're going to be using our smaller bag of concrete for this. All right. Take your measuring cup, look for on there the 1/3 marking, because we're going to use 1/3 cup of water that goes in there. Right? If you don't have a cup like mine, maybe you've got like just smaller little cups, you'd want to have a 1/3 cup measuring one. Okay. So 1/3 cup water. So I'm just going to pour in here. If you end up accidentally having like a little bit more than 1/3, that's probably okay. You'll just have a little bit more watery concrete. So depending on which bag you got from school, you might have a different type of concrete, right? So I've got 2 different kinds that I'd purchased, and some of them have a little bit more what's called aggregate in it, and those are like little tiny stones. And one of them is a little bit more smooth. So I kind of realized after last trimester that the smoother concrete might work a little bit better, but it's kind of like, I think I've got the older one, so it might be a little bit different. So why don't you everybody just put on a pair of gloves just to be safe. You don't want to irritate your skin. Look like you're kind of a medical professional here doing some stuff. Okay, got my gloves on, gonna be safe. I'm going to pour that water right into the smaller bag, right? So we've got a bigger amount of concrete in one bag and a smaller amount of concrete, right? It should be pretty easy to tell which one has more than the other. Just lift it up So one of them's like a lot heavier than the other one, right? Pour that water in. All right, so what's really important with concrete, and I'm just gonna close it up, is that you mix it all the way through. Okay, so I'm just gonna use my hands and just work the bag to get that water fully mixed in with the concrete. It's not an exact science here. So if you feel like, okay, it looks like there's still some dry parts, you can feel free to just pour in just a little bit more water if you need. But I think for the most part, you're just gonna be able to use your hands on the outside to kind of mix that concrete up. The spoon might come into play a little bit for you as you're doing the next step where you're getting the concrete out of the bag into what we need it to be into. Oh, you know what? I forgot to do that food dye thing. I was gonna try that out. I was gonna try putting that in the water first and then pour it in here. But I guess this will be an experiment. I'll do the color thing beforehand for the bigger bag. I'm gonna do it afterhand right now. Sorry, the screen's a little bit blurry. I think it's just on autofocus on the camera there. So I'm gonna take a little bit of my food dye here. This is just like regular food coloring. And I'm just gonna add it into the bag here and just see what happens. And I don't even know like how much I need or if it's even gonna work, but why not give it a shot? I've already done this a few times the other way. So I added that color in and now I'm just kind of mixing up concrete again. If you were to be using like a big bucket and making up a whole bag of concrete, you'd be mixing this with an electric mixer and you'd be mixing it for, probably about 5 minutes. We're just gonna spend a few minutes kind of getting the bag of concrete all mixed together. You don't have to use food dye. I'm just trying out something different because I've kind of done that just plain old concrete thing a few times already as I was trying to figure out how to make this project work. Yeah, so my blue food dye kind of looks almost greenish in this bag. No, it'll be something a little bit different. All right. So I think that's probably about enough time there. So now I'm going to open up the bag. And we're going to start by doing our planter. So take one of the cups and you're going to be pouring concrete into the cup. And I'd like you to pour to make it about half full with concrete. So I think very carefully with your bag open, you could actually just take that bag and pour some concrete in there. This is why it would be good to have like a little bit of that plastic bag stuff going on underneath your work surface here. So it is real easy to accidentally dump some of this. Okay. So I poured some in there. It's about half full. Now what you're seeing me do is I'm setting the concrete just a little bit. I'm tapping it on the table and you're gonna see some bubbles come up. So one of the things that this helps out with is making sure that you don't have bubbles, especially on the edges of your concrete. There's those little bubbles that are popping on the top would have caused you to have like a spot where you didn't have smooth concrete.
How wet should the concrete be?
How wet should it be?
Yeah, because wait, okay. So did you say that we only needed 1/3 of a cup?
Yeah, 1/3 of a cup. It's crazy how even just that small amount of water can really mix through that whole bag. So for the small bag, we do 1/3 cup.
Really dry.
Yeah, mine was really dry too. I added more water.
Do you think that you have the concrete that has more rocks in it or less rocks?
I'm not sure.
Do you see like any big rocks in there?
I don't know. I mean, there's like chunks kind of, but like they're not rocks.
Yeah. So I think that you've got the thinner concrete. So yeah, you might need a little more water. So yeah, Grace, if you had noticed that more water helped with that, you can increase the amount of water.
But like, what is the consistency supposed to be?
You ever had oatmeal before?
Yeah.
Kind of an oatmeal-y type texture.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. It still seems kind of like sticky, but like as I'm moving it around there, it has a little bit of give. So yeah, if you notice that you don't have like larger rocks showing up in yours, like, I don't know if that's easy to see, but this is the first kind of concrete that I got. This one is what I'm using, and it's for sure 1/3 cup water. If you've got the other kind, I think you might need to increase the amount of water a little bit. So maybe try to go for half a cup to even 3/4 of a cup, just to see how that works. But yeah. After you've tapped it, everybody, and you got some bubbles up, we're going to be using one of our little Dixie cups. So these are those like little cups that you might have in a bathroom to like drink some water. Or, if you're taking some medication or something, you sip the water out of it. So this is what we're going to be using for the center part of our planter. So you can think of the outer part being like the outside of the pot, and then we're going to put this on the inside, and it's going to become our kind of interior space that we'll use for the planter. So this is the technique on this one. You're going to be taking this little cup and you're going to be pushing it in and spinning all the way until you try to get it so that it's up to the top edge of that little Dixie cup. It's best to try to keep the cup kind of flat, not like what I'm doing, lifting it up so you can see it, but keep it kind of flat on a table, and the motion that you do is just kind of spinning the cup back and forth. Okay. So I've got mine down real deep there. You don't want the concrete to overflow, but just kind of be right up there on that edge. So if you don't have it right in the center, that's probably okay. It'll just look the way that you want it to look. But I would say like don't have it all the way on one edge, because then you wouldn't really have a very strong side on your planter. All right, that one's pretty easy. So that's done. Concrete takes a long time to actually set and dry. So especially with some of these projects that we're making, we've got them like fully enclosed in plastic. So it can be, a long time until it's done. Okay, so we've got some concrete probably left in that small bag. We're gonna set that to the side. Concrete can kind of sit there for 15 minutes and still be okay for pouring out. So I think it would be best to kind of start with this next bigger bag. We're gonna do the hands next. Okay, so we're gonna fill concrete into hands. So bigger bag this time. If you've got the real rocky type concrete like I do, it's going to be 2/3 cup water. So find your measuring spot there. Get to the 2/3 cup mark and pour it on in. Push a little bit of air out of the bag, but be careful because there's going to be some dust that kind of comes up. Seal it up again. Do the same kind of thing. Start mixing that concrete into that bag. And hey, everybody, if you have a different idea of something that you want to try doing with the concrete, please try it out. This is just the material that we're making something out of, but if you've got an idea like, oh, I want to try putting it into something else or doing something different with it, by all means, go for it. Use your own creativity on that. I'd be happy to see like what you can come up with. So just like our last one, we're going to mix this through. Oh, I forgot about the food dye again. I was going to mix that into the water first. This one, I'm going to add a little bit of green food dye into, but again, you don't have to do the food dye thing. I just want to have something a little bit different than what I'd done. What might be kind of cool is I'll have some green food dye, some blue food dye, and I can mix the different colored concrete together for some of this stuff. All right, so I put that in the bag now. I'm going to keep mixing it. I almost feel like we need some background music going on in this. All right, so we're mixing up that bag, especially if you kind of like feel between your hands that there's like some lumpy concrete. And yeah, Colin, sorry, I'm seeing your question there. It is with the big bag. So this is like mixing up that next bag. We'll still have some concrete left in that small bag that we can use, but I want to make sure that we've got a good pour here for our hands, and then we'll use whatever concrete's left in both bags to fill up our little pillow and make that pillow. Now the big bag, good question again, the big bag is twice as much water. So we want to do 2/3 cup water. Or if you've got the different concrete that's a little bit more smooth, you know, it's just all dusty, I would say probably more around 1 cup if it seems like we need to kind of add more water into it, okay? So big bag. I think it's got a little bit of a green hue, but not a whole lot, so, oh well. So it seems pretty well mixed up to me, so I'm gonna move forward onto the next stage here. So the next stage is we're going to be filling gloves with concrete. So to do that, use the other cup and put the glove into said cup. Then we're going to take the top of the glove and we're going to wrap it around the top edge. Now I'm going to see if this works. Depending on the type of glove that you have, it might be more stretchy or less stretchy. I'm kind of crumpling the cup just a little bit to get it to open up enough. Now this is just to kind of give you a little bit of a, you know, an easier time getting the concrete to go into the glove. And we'll get some in there like this, and then we'll have to kind of spoon some in after we get it out of the cup. But yeah, look, these blue gloves can't stretch enough. I wouldn't want you to break the glove. So I'm just kind of crumpling the cup just a little bit to make it work. Right, then it's the same thing that we did before. So very carefully, take some of that concrete and start pouring it into the cup. I'm like trying to be so careful here. It'll come out in clumps, but just like what we did with our cup earlier, we're going to kind of massage that that concrete into place, and that'll help to kind of form it into things. So kind of just did some taps there to get it to go down a little bit. Okay, so after you've done as much as you can with it in the cup, take it out, and then I want you to look at that hand and start pushing the concrete down into the fingers. You're going to open up some more space that you can add some concrete in. The worst thing that you can do with these gloves is like have a gap where there's no concrete, because the fingers won't be connected, right? So I'm kind of getting as much concrete down in there as I can. Now you can even take the glove and just kind of shake it to get some of the concrete to go down into the fingers. Great, and here's where that spoon's going to come into play. So now I'm going to take the spoon and I'm just going to spoon some more concrete into that opening. It seems like, you know, you don't want to overfill because you want to be able to form the glove. So you don't want it to balloon out like having too much concrete in there. Once I get to a good filled amount here, I'll just show you how much that is, because you got to make sure, especially where the thumb is on the glove, that you've got enough concrete that can kind of connect that thumb into the rest of the hand. So I've got to do a little bit more. That right there seems about good. So as I'm looking at how much is filled in here, all the fingers are all the way filled. I've got a lot of the palm of the hand filled. And then I stopped maybe about 2 inches down from the top of the plastic. All right, so that's going to be, you know, a good amount to fill. Now, here is the technique for kind of making sure that we've got, you know, the top closed up. We're just gonna spin that top a few times. Right here, you can kind of see how much give you have. And then you can either use like these rubber bands, or if you have like a clip that you want to use or a hair tie or something like that, you're just going to use that to make sure that the bag stays closed. So I'm just kind of taking it, using the rubber band, pretending it's a ponytail. Having 3 of my kids with longer hair, I have gotten pretty good at doing these little pony things. So I'm just going to keep spinning that, getting that on there. All right. Glove 1 filled. Do it a second time. So next steps on the gloves here is to, if you wanted to do this, have a bowl that you put a plastic bag around. That'll keep you from getting any concrete accidentally on the bowl. Then you could take the hands and you could place them side by side within the bowl. Kind of like this. You kind of press the hands in so that way they really form into the shape of the bowl. And that would be a way to make it so that you've got the hands as they're setting and drying will be like this shape. After the concrete dries, Colin, if you don't have any rubber bands, you might even be able to think of it like the end of a balloon. So kind of twist it and then you could kind of just do a knot around your finger on it. Otherwise, if you happen to have hair ties around home or anything like that, or like chip clips, you could use that just to kind of clip the end. But yeah, so this is one method here, everybody. You can just kind of put it into a bowl like that to shape the hands. Another thing that I was thinking earlier today might be kind of interesting is instead of having them kind of like on the inside of a bowl, maybe I have them on the outside of a bowl and kind of do something. So that would give me a little bit easier time, like doing something with the fingers. So if I wanted to like make it so that the hands were connected somehow, just be kind of mindful, I think, of the concrete coming out of the opening if you hadn't connected the hands together well enough on the back end here, because the concrete could kind of come out on those sides. So that'd be another option. Any part where you've got the hands kind of connected like this would be areas that you'd be gluing with the Gorilla Glue. Or you could even go flat on the surface of the table. Just pick an area where you can let them sit for a while. And you could think of an interesting way to kind of connect the hands together. If anybody's ever seen the movie The Addams Family, this project kind of reminds me of that. There's just like a pair of hands kind of moving around. So you decide what you want to do with the hands. I think I'm going to go for this kind of flat method, but you'll want to choose a spot where you can let them sit for days. So find a spot somewhere around your home where you can just maybe even lay down some plastic and then let them sit. So now we're going to do our last thing, and this one's actually pretty easy. You'll find in your bag a little sandwich bag, or you can use any kind of plastic bag that you can kind of close up. So if you have a different kind of bag at home that you want to use, you could do that. And you're going to use whatever concrete you have left, and you're going to put it in the bag. Right, so I've got some left in here that's one color. So just gonna pour that directly into this other bag. This is gonna become a concrete pillow. I even had a spoon that was just stuck in there. Okay, so that's one of my bags. I've got a little bit left in this other one. That first bag was starting to set, so it's a good thing we got to it here before it got too set. You don't want to fill it too full. So if you do have a little bit of extra in one of the bags, you can just leave it. So now mine's kind of multicolored. One half is bluish and one half is greenish. Then what I want you to do is try to squeeze out as much air as you can from that bag. So I'm going to move this out of the way so you can see it. Kind of squeeze out as much air as you can and seal the edges. Okay, then push the concrete into that area. And then it's up to you as to what you want to do to form that concrete pillow. So if you want it to be like a little dish where you can put, something like keys or change, you can press in on the middle and you can find something that's heavy enough to press in there just to kind of keep that shape. So that's what these small bowls are for. So I just kind of take that bowl and I put that in the middle there and I'm going to let it set just like that. Others in the past have taken a bowl and flipped it upside down. Instead of having it form flat on a table, they drape it on something like this. Okay, so you could have gravity kind of hold it in a shape like this rather than kind of pressing into it. All right, so the way that you go about that one is totally up to you, but you got kind of the remainder of your concrete used that way. So again, 3 projects that we're doing with this. If you have another idea of how you want to go about the project, you're welcome to. But we have our planter cup, right? So cup and a cup. We've got our hands, and we have our concrete pillow, all right?